Hello everyone and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name's Rhiannon and today I'm filming the reading taste tag. I was tagged by the lovely Victoria over at What Victoria Read, and I believe that this tag was created by Harriet Rosie, so I will leave both Victoria and Harriet's channels linked down below for you guys. I had a look at the questions, I really liked them, and I haven't filmed a tag in a while, so I thought I'd sit down today and do just that, and hopefully you guys can know me and my reading tastes a little bit better. So the first question is to describe my reading taste in one sentence, and I think I've gotten this pretty spot on. My reading taste is a mix of everything, but mainly murder mystery and fantasy books. Number 2 is describe your reading taste with categories, so that can be genre, age range, or the length of a book. And to be honest, I don't have any particular categories that I focus on when I'm choosing books. I will say I haven't really been reading middle grade lately. I don't know why, I just haven't been gravitating towards those types of books. YA is also a category that I've strayed away from, mainly because I am feeling like I can't quite connect to the characters at that point in their life anymore. Obviously a few years back YA was my favourite genre because I was at the age that these characters were, but now that I am getting older, I'm currently 24, I'm moving into the new adult and adult genres, and I definitely feel like that's reflected in the books that I'm choosing to read at the minute. A lot of them are new adult and adult, whether those be fantasy books, murder mystery books, literary fiction books. I do just prefer the older age category. The next question is show us a few books that represent your reading taste, and I have quite a big stack here, guys. I looked at my shelves, picked out a few of my favourite books, and I've ended up with 11. Now I don't like 11 as a number, but that's the number we've got, so I am just going to hold up the stack and show you guys the books. So in my opinion, these are the books that represent my reading taste. I will go through them individually very quickly, but I won't be offering up a synopsis, just because I don't want this video to be too long. But yeah, if you were to ask me what my favourite books were, I feel like this would be the stack that I would show you. First up, we have the first book in the Six Tudor Queen series by Alison Weir, but this is representative of the series as a whole. I think that my favourite at the minute is the second book, which follows Anne Boleyn. The same goes for Robin Hobb. I have just chosen the first book in the Farseer trilogy to show you guys, which is Assassin's Apprentice, but I gave the majority of Robin Hobb books 5 stars. Absolutely love each and every single one. I did read all of them as part of Elderling Along, which was a read-along hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books for her book club, Catch Up Book Club. Next up, we have Wolf Brother by Michelle Paver. Whilst I said in one of the earlier questions that I'm straying away from middle grade, this will always be my favourite. I absolutely love it. This is the first book in that series. We are set in a prehistoric world and we get the perspective of a wolf in here, which is why I think I love it so much. Then we have my favourite book of all time, which is The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien. We have my favourite YA murder mystery, which is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson in this stunning new collector's edition. Then we have any Agatha Christie book. I have chosen Murder on the Orient Express to show here because this is one of the most popular Agatha Christie books. But again, I am slowly making my way through all of Agatha Christie's books and I'm really enjoying my experience. Then we have another all-time favourite of mine, which is Circe by Madeline Miller. It's a Greek myth retelling and I absolutely loved it. I listened to the audiobook, read the book physically and tabbed it, so you know I had a good time. Then we have The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh, which is a fantastic book set in New Orleans in the 1800s, and we have vampires, werewolves and a serial killer on the loose, and this is fantastic. I would highly recommend. Then we have Fourth Wing, which I feel like this does not need any explanation. It is a very new fantasy romance book that I absolutely loved. It's one of my new favourite books and I feel like it definitely deserves a place on this list. Next up we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, but again this is just representing all Sarah J Maas books because I absolutely love her books and this is what started it off. I have tabbed this one as well, so you know it's a good book, and yeah, I will always be thankful to Sarah for writing this world. And then we finally made it to the last book, which is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I loved this duology and this book in particular is one of my favourite books of all time. The writing is beautiful, the story itself is so magical and powerful and heartwarming, and I genuinely feel like this is one of the best books that I've ever read. Question number 4 is what's a book that you didn't like but would thought that it would be to your taste? For that one I have to go for The Appeal by Janice Hallett. I don't own a physical copy, I have since unhauled it. I really did not not get on with this book, guys. I don't know what the hype is about for this because it was genuinely one of the slowest books that I've ever read, and I feel like the murder mystery element of it was really lackluster and wasn't very well done. In case you don't know, The Appeal is a murder mystery book. It is told through mixed media, so we have emails, texts, transcripts, all those sorts of things, and it's not told as a traditionally published novel. So that is what first drew me in. I really like that element to it. It is something that's used in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder a lot, and I really clicked with it then. However, Janice Hallett must not be for me because, as I mentioned, I really struggled through this book. We are in a small town following a large cast of characters where someone has been put away for murder. We have two new detectives on the case who are trying to solve it because the person that's behind bars may have been wrongfully convicted. Now that sounds exactly like my cup of tea, however it was just so poorly done, it was so boring, and had I not been reading it for a dedicated reading vlog I would have DNF'd it. So unfortunately that book was not for me. I do have Janice Hallett's other book, which is The Twyford Code. A lot of you have told me to keep that one and give it a go, but I have had to just not think about that book for a while because I need a break from Janice Hallett. Who knows, I may not ever read it, we shall see, but I do still have it. Let me know if you think I would enjoy it. But yeah, unfortunately The Appeal was a massive letdown for me, which is such a shame considering the hype around it and considering I thought it was going to be a new favourite book of mine. And then question number 5 is, what's a book that you enjoyed but you didn't think it would be to your taste? And for that one I've chosen Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is one that I read a while back now, but it's a story that has stuck with me ever since. There's nothing that really stands out about it. I think it's just the way that this story is told. The beautiful writing in this tugged on all of my heartstrings, and the fact that we know William Shakespeare as this very successful playwright is one thing, but then seeing him as a father and seeing the family dynamics is just, yeah, it was heartbreaking and it was so well done. And considering I picked this one up completely out of the blue to just give it a try, I'm so glad I enjoyed it. I was completely blown away by it and it has fast become a favourite of mine. I have always loved historical fiction, but I feel like this is the book that re-cemented my love for it. I hadn't really reached for it for a while, and as soon as I picked this up and read it I fell back into the rabbit hole, and that is why I then went on to read the 6 Tudor Queen series, which has now become a favourite series of mine. So I have this book to thank for a lot of things, and considering I picked this up on a whim and wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it, I am so happy to say that I was blown away by it. The writing's beautiful. I will definitely be reading more by this author, and I would highly recommend this book to you guys if you're interested in the plague, Shakespeare, or Maggie O'Farrell's writing in general, because she is a renowned author. She's a very popular author and I feel like that is for good reason. Question 6 is, show us some books off of your TBR that you think will be exactly to your taste. Now I'm not gonna lie, I completely missed this question when I was planning for this video, so I have just had to go through my shelves, read them and see what I could pick out. So I have probably missed some obvious ones, but I do have a stack of books here to show you with some books that I am desperate to get to and that I think will be 5-star reads, which are of course books that I predict to be exactly to my taste. First up we have the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang. I recently read Babel and Yellowface by this author and fell in love with her writing style. I've also heard fantastic things about this trilogy in particular, and it's one that I'm desperate to get to, so hopefully I can do that soon. Then we have Stoneblind by Natalie Haynes, which is a Greek myth retelling focusing on Medusa. We then have A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, and I actually remember that I also have Divine Rivals on my TBR as well by Rebecca Ross, so of course I'm going to mention that one as well. I think that these are both YA fantasy books, but I've just heard the best things about Rebecca Ross's writing style. Divine Rivals is getting a lot of hype at the minute and people are turning to her backlist, so these are 2 books that I would very much like to get to soon and books that I do think will be favourites of mine. Then we have the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman, a series that I'm very embarrassed to say that I still haven't started yet, and a very new addition to my TBR is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I'm desperate to get to this book. I feel like I'm going to absolutely love it. It's Cassandra Clare's first adult high fantasy book, and it's also completely separate from the Shadowhunter Chronicles, so I'm very excited to dive into this one and I'm really hoping that it's going to be a book that I end up loving. Question number 7 is to name some booktubers who have similar reading tastes to me, and I feel like this is a little bit difficult because I read so many different genres. I wouldn't necessarily say that there's one booktuber that has the exact same reading taste as me, so I'm going to list off a few. We have Becca from Becca and the Books, Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, Cody from Cody's Book Corner, Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin, Reagan from Peruse Project, Olivia from Olivia Reads a Latte, Jade from JD Ray Reads, Katie from Katie is Reading, Meg from Meg with Books, Jodie from Vanilla Moon, and Katie from Katie's Book Nook. Now, I have probably missed so many other booktubers, but they are the main booktubers that I personally watch just because I feel like their reading tastes are similar to mine. But of course, different booktubers feature different types of books in their videos depending on their personal tastes. And they're the booktubers that, as I mentioned, I turn to quite a bit for recommendations and for some bookish content in general. Question 8 is, have you always had this taste in books, or have your reading tastes changed over the years? Now, I briefly touched on this earlier when I was talking about how I'm slowly moving away from middle grade and YA books. I have always loved fantasy books ever since I started reading, when I picked up The Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien for the first time and Wolf Brother by Michelle Paver. Those, as well as some Jacqueline Wilson and Goosebumps books, are the books that got me into reading, and I will be forever thankful to them for that. I'm so happy that they're still favourites of mine. They're books that I reread every single year if I can, and I always get something out of it. It's the nostalgia behind it for me, and they will never not be favourite books of mine. But at the same time, as I mentioned, I'm reading a lot more adult books now, especially adult high fantasy books, which, if you'd asked me last year whether I liked adult high fantasy or not, I probably would have said no, just because they intimidate me so much. But having been a part of the Catch-Up Book Club, which again I mentioned earlier, has really helped me gain confidence in reading adult high fantasy books. I retain a lot more information than I thought I would. I can keep track of what's going on, and I found that I really love the nitty-gritty details that we get in these adult high fantasy books, rather than, say, a YA book that has a lot less world building and character development and politics involved. I'm not saying that's the case for every YA book, but that's just a quick summary of why I'm moving more into the adult fantasy genre. In terms of the murder mystery books, again, it's always been something that I've loved. I wouldn't necessarily say that I've always read murder mystery books. It's definitely a genre that I have grown to love and read more from, I'd say, in the past 2-3 years, maybe even a little bit before that. I feel like that's mainly because it does seem to be a genre that's on the rise. A lot more murder mystery books are being published, which is fantastic for someone like me who just wants to devour all the murder mysteries. And as I mentioned, I am making my way through some Agatha Christie books as well, so I'm trying to at least read one of those a month, and I feel like they are some of the best murder mysteries out there. They are so complex and so well done, and they just satisfy my detective brain. So that is a quick look at my reading tastes and how they have changed slightly over the last few years. Of course, I will still read middle grade, I will still read YA, but at this point in time I am just reading a lot of adult books. I am reading middle grade in my classroom with my kids. We've chosen The Creakers by Tom Fletcher as our first classroom read this year, and they are loving it so far, and so am I. It is a reread for me, but it's so fun. And I am currently trying to read more YA books from my shelves at the minute. I've made it a priority this month. I have a few YA books that I am hoping to get to, which is very handy because I did feel myself getting a little bit slumpy, and I feel like YA books are perfect to get me out of a slump, whereas adult high fantasy books are not the one. So I feel like it depends on my reading mood, but if you'd ask me specifically what I'm gravitating towards right now in this very moment, it is the adult category. And just like that, we have made it to the last question, and that is to tag some of you guys. Now, I'm not one that likes to tag specific people because I don't want to put pressure on people to film a video or post their tag. So all I'll say is I will tag anyone who wants to do this tag. If you do decide to do it, please do mention me or let me know down in the comments below. That way I can check it out and see what your reading tastes are. I feel like that is always a lot of fun, and it's a good excuse for anyone who wants to do this tag but hasn't been tagged yet. So feel free to take this as your tag. I've actually had a really fun time filming this. As I mentioned, I don't really film a lot of tags, however I definitely want to try and do more. It has made me reflect on my reading and see how my reading has changed just in a short amount of time. So who knows, if I did this tag again in a few years, maybe my answers would be completely different, and I can always look back on this video now and see what I thought of my reading in 2023. If you have made it this far through into the video and would like to let me know that you're still here, please go ahead and comment a bookish emoji down in the comments. I am surrounded by books at the minute, you guys. I've had to pull so much off my shelves, so I feel like that is definitely a fitting emoji. And if you don't have anything in particular that you would like to say but you would like to let me know that you're still here, please go ahead and comment that now. As well as that, please don't forget to click the like button if you like this video and the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. But that is it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It truly does mean the world to me, and I will see you soon in my next video. Goodbye!